Look like Caitlin Clark's civil rights has sparked a WNBA and NBA probe by the Trump administration.
Everyone thinks the Caitlin Clark story is about hard fouls and rookie hazing, but the truth is far darker. It's about a civil war inside the WNBA that has the league on the brink of a full-blown crisis, with calls for government oversight growing louder every day. The league's biggest asset has become its most polarizing figure, exposing a deep fracture between the old guard and the new era. And at the center of it all is a commissioner facing an internal revolt, not just from angry fans but from powerful players and nervous sponsors who fear her handling of the league's biggest star has lit a fire she can no longer control. This isn't just about basketball anymore. It's about jealousy, power, and a billion-dollar brand on the verge of tearing itself apart from the inside. And it all started with a single shove that was seen around the world
Months ago that Trump and his administration was coming. I've been preaching on it. I didn't think it was going to hit the NBA first. I thought it was coming to the W first, simply because of Caitlin Clark, her civil rights being violated, and these damn referees.
It wasn't just a foul, it was a declaration of war. When Cheney Carter delivered a blindside hip check to Caitlin Clark away from the ball, it became the flashpoint for a conflict that had been simmering for months. This wasn't a basketball play, this was a message. While sports analysts debated the severity, Carter's post-game comments revealed everything. She offered no remorse, instead posting cryptic messages about being a villain. This single act pulled the curtain back on a deep-seated jealousy among veteran players who felt their territory was being invaded by a rookie who hadn't paid her dues. Carter became the face of that resentment, but as footage of the incident went viral, it became clear she wasn't acting alone. The league's initial response to the incident was a calculated decision that would backfire spectacularly.
Now, Stephen A. Smith has been someone, too, that has been vocal, has been an advocate about this probe happening. Now,
while the internet was on fire, the WNBA's head office went dark. For nearly 24 agonizing hours, Commissioner Cathy Engelbert and the league said nothing. This deafening silence was interpreted by millions as complicity. Sources inside the league later revealed the delay was caused by frantic internal debates on how to handle the situation. Some executives wanted to let it slide as part of the game to appease veteran players, while others saw the PR disaster unfolding in real time. This indecision exposed a massive leadership vacuum at the worst possible moment. The league couldn't decide if it wanted to protect its new superstar or coddle its resentful old guard. And this wasn't the first time the league's veterans had sent a warning to Clark. The threat started before she even played her first professional game.
You know what world that I live in terms of politics. How many times, for one incident after another, have I said, Trump is coming. He's coming. I'm going to say it on national television again.
She's called the WNBA's GOAT, but Diana Taurasi's first words about Caitlin Clark weren't a welcome, they were a threat. In a preseason interview that now looks like a chilling prophecy, Taurasi dismissed Clark's college success, warning that reality is coming. At the time, it was spun as tough love from a veteran. Looking back, it was the opening shot of the war. Taurasi's comments set a hostile tone across the league, essentially giving other players permission to target Clark, framing it as a necessary welcome to the pros. It created a narrative that any physicality against Clark was justified, a way of teaching the college star a lesson. Taurasi's words were just the beginning. The on-court aggression quickly escalated, and the refs seemed to be looking the other way.
That's very, very important. And albeit indirectly, it involves Caitlin Clark, the Department of Justice, and quite possibly the President of the United States himself. Somebody got to say it, so I'm going to say it. But one thing I will not do is take credit for this. I am looking at the Wall Street Journal. The author of the article is a guy by the name of Sean McLean.
The refs weren't just missing calls, they were enforcing a different rulebook for one player. As the season progressed, a disturbing pattern emerged. Social media was flooded with compilations showing Clark getting hammered by off-ball screens, pushed after the whistle, and hit with excessive contact on drives to the basket, all with no call. In contrast, any contact she initiated, no matter how minor, seemed to draw a quick whistle. This wasn't just inconsistency, it was clear bias that fans, analysts, and even professional gamblers started calling out. The perception grew that officials were allowing other players to physically bully the league's biggest draw. This pattern of abuse culminated in the most shocking decision of all, one made not on the court but in a closed-door meeting that would ignite a national firestorm.
Instead of protecting its transformative star, the league's leadership ignores the relentless targeting of Ms. Clark, treating its greatest asset as if she were a PR headache. That approach could turn into a legal liability for the
Leaving the most popular basketball player in the world off Team USA was never about basketball. It was about power. When the Olympic roster was announced without Caitlin Clark's name, the flimsy excuses about her lack of experience were immediately dismissed. The truth, revealed by insider reports, was far more cynical. The selection committee was reportedly worried that Clark's immense popularity would create a media circus if she didn't get significant playing time, a distraction they didn't want to manage. They were afraid of her fans. It was a decision rooted in fear and politics, not talent or the goal of winning a gold medal. It was a stunning message from the establishment. We don't care how popular you are, we control this league. And the public reaction was even more intense than they feared. The Olympic snub transformed a sports debate into a full-blown culture war. Suddenly, Caitlin Clark wasn't just a basketball player. She was a political symbol to millions of Americans. She represented merit, hard work, and traditional values. The perception that she was being punished for her success by a jealous establishment resonated far beyond the world of sports. Conservative talk shows and cable news networks seized on the story, framing it as another example of a broken system that penalizes achievement. This tidal wave of outrage drew the attention of political figures who saw a clear opportunity to tap into the public's frustration. This is where the whispers of government oversight began. It started as a hot take on sports talk radio, but the idea quickly gained terrifying momentum. Pundits and even some legal analysts began arguing that if a professional sports league fails to apply its own rules fairly and creates a hostile environment for its most valuable employee, it could be seen as an unfair business practice. The racial undertones highlighted by some commentators only added fuel to the fire, prompting some to ask a dangerous question. If the league's conduct creates a biased environment, could it theoretically warrant a civil rights review? This public pressure finally forced the commissioner to go on the record, but her response only made things worse. Cathy Engelbert went on a media tour to put out the fire, but she showed up with a can of gasoline. In a series of disastrous interviews, the WNBA commissioner came across as completely out of touch. She downplayed the brutal physicality against Clark as a standard welcome to the league, and flatly denied that veteran players were jealous, despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Her corporate, jargon-filled answers enraged fans, who could see the cheap shots and biased officiating with their own eyes. Engelbert's failure to simply acknowledge the problem and promise to fix it made her look weak and protective of the aggressors. While the commissioner was fumbling the biggest crisis in her league's history, Clark's biggest rival was adding fuel to the fire. Her rivalry with Caitlin Clark defined the peak of college basketball, and Angel Reese made sure it would define the pros, too. Reese understood the dynamic perfectly. By leaning into the villain role, she positioned herself as the leader of the anti-Clark movement. This was on full display when she was captured on camera celebrating Carter's hip check from the bench, and later when she delivered a flagrant foul by hitting Clark in the head on a layup attempt. Reese cleverly embraced the narrative, knowing that a segment of the fan base and many veteran players would rally behind her, but her actions, combined with the league's inaction, were starting to have a serious effect behind the scenes, where it hurts the most. The bottom line. State Farm, Nike, Gatorade, They invested millions of dollars in Caitlin Clark's wholesome, trailblazing image. They didn't sign up for a civil war. As the narrative around the WNBA shifted from exciting growth to a toxic, hostile environment, alarm bells started ringing in corporate boardrooms. These are brands built on empowerment, positivity, and fair play. The footage of their star client being bullied on the court, combined with the league's weak response, was brand poison. Behind the scenes, sources confirmed that sponsors were making concerned calls to the WNBA front office, demanding to know what the league was doing to protect its attacks in their biggest investment. This sponsor panic led to a seismic shift in WNBA policy, a decision that was long overdue but one that secretly infuriated the veteran players. The WNBA tried to solve its image problem by throwing money at it. Out of nowhere, the league announced a $50 million two-year plan to fund charter flights for all teams. Publicly, it was spun as a long-awaited investment in the players' well-being. Privately, everyone knew the truth. This was a direct result of the Caitlin Clark effect. The massive influx of attention and revenue she generated made the league's old travel standards untenable, but instead of gratitude, the move created even more resentment. Veterans who had fought for this for years saw it as Clark being handed a victory she didn't fight for. This move exposed the deep financial divide Clark had created, and it led to one of the most revealing moments of the season. For weeks, Caitlin Clark absorbed the hits and stayed silent, sticking to post-game cliches. But after one particularly brutal game, she finally hinted at the truth. When a reporter asked about the physicality, Clark gave a subtle but powerful response, saying, "It's something a lot of players in the league deal with." By saying, "It's not just me," she masterfully reframed the issue. She wasn't asking for special treatment. She was advocating for better officiating for everyone. It was her first public acknowledgement that something was wrong. A quiet act of defiance that sent shockwaves through the league office. Her words gave other players, especially retired ones, the courage to finally speak out against the league's obvious double standards. Not everyone in the WNBA's old guard was on board with the anti-Clark agenda. As the controversy raged, several respected WNBA legends and media analysts broke ranks. Icons like Nancy Lieberman and Rebecca Lobo went on record to condemn the dirty plays and call out the league for failing to protect its star. Their validation was a critical turning point. It was no longer just oversensitive fans complaining online. It was the league's own respected veterans confirming that the treatment of Clark was unacceptable and damaging to the sport. This changed the entire narrative from a simple rookie hazing story to a legitimate league-wide crisis of integrity. And that's when the conversation turned to the one group that needs the game to be fair, more than anyone else. The one power player in this saga that nobody talks about was watching, and they were furious. The Caitlin Clark effect caused a massive explosion in legal sports betting on the WNBA, with millions of new dollars being wagered on every game. The integrity of the officiating became paramount. The perception that refs were allowing one player to be consistently targeted creates a nightmare scenario for sportsbooks. When officiating seems biased, it undermines the legitimacy of the outcome and threatens the entire multi-billion-dollar gambling industry, and it's this specific threat to the integrity of a betting market that often attracts the unwanted attention of federal regulators and law enforcement. This wasn't just about a few bad refs or jealous players. It was a complete failure at every level. The WNBA's entire infrastructure was built for a niche sport. It was never prepared for the global phenomenon that Caitlin Clark brought to its doorstep. Everything from officiating training to security protocols to player relations and marketing was instantly overwhelmed. The league was trying to operate a rocket ship with the instruction manual for a bicycle. The resentment from veteran players was a symptom of a larger problem, a league that had no plan for success on this scale. They were so unprepared for the Caitlin Clark effect that everything buckled under the pressure, and as the league fumbled, the ultimate winner wasn't the players or the commissioner, but Clark herself. The more they tried to tear her down, the more powerful she became. Every cheap shot, every online insult, every ridiculous snub only served to make Caitlin Clark more famous, more sympathetic, and infinitely more marketable. The relentless attacks transformed her from a talented rookie into a cultural icon of resilience and grace under fire. Her jersey became the top-selling jersey in all of sports, and her personal brand soared into the stratosphere. She never had to play the victim because the footage did it for her. This new level of fame put the WNBA commissioner in an impossible position, a strategic checkmate from which there was no escape. Cathy Engelbert was trapped, and every move she made was the wrong one. She was caught between a resentful old guard that felt abandoned and a massive new fan base that felt ignored. If she cracked down hard on the veteran players, she would face an internal revolt. If she continued to stay silent and offer weak excuses, she would be seen as a failed leader by the entire world. Her attempts to play both sides with neutral corporate speak satisfied no one. Major business publications like Forbes and the Wall Street Journal began openly questioning her leadership, wondering if she was capable of navigating the crisis. This colossal failure has now led to a chilling question: has the damage already been done? The WNBA can never go back to the way it was, but its future is now dangerously uncertain. The Civil War has exposed the league's deepest insecurities and divisions to the world. It has created a toxic environment that threatens to alienate the millions of new fans Clark brought in, fans who came for exciting basketball, not petty drama and dirty plays. The trust between the players, the officials, and the front office appears to be completely shattered. The league had a once-in-a-generation opportunity for explosive growth, but instead, it has become a case study in how to mismanage a golden goose. So what happens now? There are only two paths forward, and one of them leads to total collapse. The story of Caitlin Clark in the WNBA was never just about basketball. It was about a league being forced to confront its own identity in the mirror. For years, the WNBA struggled for attention. Now it has all the attention in the world, and it doesn't know what to do with it. The jealousy, the leadership failure, the cultural explosion, and the immense financial stakes have brought the league to a critical crossroads. It can either finally embrace the new era of superstardom that Caitlin Clark represents, or it can be consumed and ultimately destroyed by its resistance to it. The calls for real accountability, whether they come from sponsors, fans, or even government watchdogs, will only get louder until a choice is made. What do you think about the veteran players' treatment of Caitlin Clark? Is it justified as tough competition, or has it crossed the line into unprofessional bullying that is hurting the league? Let me know your take in the comments below.